Welcome to the Vision Driven Basketball Training Podcast. Appreciate all of you guys for tuning in today, whether you're on Apple Podcast, Spotify. Of course, all you guys watching on YouTube, shout out to you guys. Make sure you drop a like and subscribe. If you're on Apple Podcasts right now, I'd really appreciate if you guys would scroll down, leave a review. Let me know what you think. Like I tell you guys, if you leave a review, I'll read it at the beginning of the show. So we have one this week that I want to get to, and this comes from LeGM got me traded. He says, inspiring and an amazing podcast with so much to learn from. My game has improved significantly ever since I've started implementing the things mentioned in the podcast and my own training. Keep up the good work. I appreciate that. And again, reviews help the show out, help it to rank a little bit higher, more people to see it, which is just, better for everybody. Allows me to kind of put more into the show and, again, bring you guys even more stuff. So very appreciative of that. If you're on, like I said, on YouTube right now, subscribe if you're new. Podcast coming every single Sunday. And of course, my Instagram is at Vision Driven Basketball. So if you have questions for me, a lot of times the topics that I talk about on the podcast come from DM questions or come from YouTube comments, whatever it may be. So there's those avenues for you guys as well to check out. Today, I want to talk about confidence. This is something that I've been thinking about a lot this past week. I think I've talked about confidence a couple of times, but I felt like I should go through it again and kind of give a little bit of a different spin on it as well. Specifically, I want to talk about kind of two different players here, okay? And I'm sure you guys, whether you probably are one of these players, or if you aren't, you've definitely seen it and you definitely can understand where I'm coming from here. But we have the player who goes out and who just kind of seamlessly does what they do. Like they go out and they go make plays, right? They like, it doesn't matter if they miss a couple shots. It seems like every single game they're just consistently putting the ball in the basket, and there's no real change in how they play. Okay, it doesn't get affected by the kind of the daily the day-to-day work, right? This is a player who's going to give you 15 a game, right, the whole season. Okay, you're not too worried about them, having a stretch of 5-6 games where they don't show up. Like they're there every single time. It doesn't matter who they're playing, doesn't matter where they're at. They always have a confidence about them. And usually you can feel that confidence too, right? If you play on a team with that player or you play against that player, if that player has just that kind of innate confidence that they're going to go get the job done, they're going to go score, they're going to go do whatever, like that's something that you can really feel. And then conversely, you have players who are kind of the opposite of that. They kind of ebbs and flows. Sometimes they're confident, sometimes they're not. A lot of times this is going to be based on how well they have recently played, right? If they miss a couple shots, they might immediately just check out of the game and not be able to do anything about that. And I wanted to kind of contrast these two players. Everybody wants to be that first player, and I want to give you guys kind of a roadmap to get in there. Okay, so for me as a coach, as a trainer, kind of there's a lot of goals you have for your players. So you have, obviously you want your players to get better. I guess that's kind of an overarching theme right there. But specifically, you want to be more skilled, right? I want my players to be able to shoot the ball better, handle the ball better, finish better. I want them to be able to make better decisions. I want them to have a higher IQ, all those things. But if I had to boil all that stuff down into just one thing, like one main goal, then my ultimate goal is I want my players to become more confident. And this is my thought with all my workouts, right? Anytime, especially when I have groups of players, like I'm going to put them in situations where they're going to struggle, okay, where they're going to have to play, basically all my training now is just, it's so many game-based situations where, we might work on a skill, we might work on some finishing, but then immediately after we do that, I'm gonna put a defender out there, and now we're gonna finish with a defender there. So now you become confident in your ability to actually execute that skill when you're in the context of a game. Okay, that's my ultimate goal. Is I want you to feel confident that you can go execute when there's somebody who's explicitly trying to stop you from doing that. All right, that's really where confidence comes from. And at the end of the day, the level of confidence, I truly believe this, the level of confidence that you have determines the level that you can play to. Okay, if you have a high confidence, you're going to play to your max potential pretty much every time you play. Okay. Now, that's not to say you'll never have bad games, but it's to say that on a consistent basis, you're going to be playing up to your potential if you have the right amount of confidence, right? If you're confident in your ability. Conversely, if you are not confident, you're not going to play up to what your potential is going to be. Okay. Here's the thing. You're only as good as the results that you give on the floor. At the end of the day, that you're only as good as that. You can say, hey, you know what, I can do this in practice, do that in practice. I can make a million shots in a row in practice. But if you don't go out, if you go out into games and you're afraid to shoot the basketball, you pass up opportunities and you like that's what you are as a player. Okay? If you're not able to overcome missing your first 2 or 3 shots, and after that you're done looking to be aggressive. And I should preface this with saying, like, ultimately, the step number one is making sure that you're good. Like, if you're not good, if you're not a good player, if you aren't able to actually shoot the basketball, you aren't able to put it in the basket, then no amount of like you have to have the prerequisite skills first. Okay, so you have to have put the time in. That's off the bat what we need to make clear right here. I'm not saying if you're brand new to basketball and you can't shoot at all, you should just go out and launch shots. I'm not telling you to do that at all. I'm also not saying if you're a bad shooter to go shoot the ball more. You shouldn't do that. I'm saying if you're a good player, because this is really where I wanted to get to. You know, there's a lot of players that I work with now, that I see now, that, and for me, like, I was that player who I was able to make shots. I was able to do some stuff offensively, but my confidence was so hit or miss, right? It wasn't consistent at all. And that, more than anything, would be the cause of me having bad games, right? More so than missing shots, turning the ball over. It was more so a mental thing, okay? And so now I'll see players who, again, might not even be as talented as the guy next to them, but because they have the confidence in themselves, they're the ones who perform. Meanwhile, the player next to them might be better. They might be a more skilled player. They might be bigger, might be more athletic, but they don't have that same level of confidence. And because of that, they get outplayed by players who shouldn't be outplaying them at the end of the day, okay? And again, we all know players like that. Maybe that's you, right? But even if it's not, you probably know somebody like that. You probably know a teammate who you're like, man, that guy should be way better. Or you play against somebody and say, hell, that guy should be way better. And because, you know, they don't have the confidence to go out and be aggressive and be willing to mess up sometimes, they don't play up to their potential. So at the end of the day, you know, you might see it can even be a difference between workouts and games, right? You might see a player, maybe it's you, in workouts or in practices or even in pickup, where, you know, they're dominating, right? They're going out, they're hitting shots, they're doing all this stuff, and then you get into the actual games, and all of a sudden it's like you don't even know they're on the floor. They're just completely checked out. So that's the other thing right there, is the confidence is different when it comes to workouts or practice, and then you change. You go over to a game now where things matter, and you don't get to do things over, and there's eyes watching you. Do you have the confidence to be able to perform in those situations as well? And like I said, this is definitely something that I struggle with. But I think that this all comes down to confidence, right? And how can we gain confidence? How do we have confidence every time we step on the floor? I think that's, again, my goal with my players, is to make sure that they do have that confidence. And when you fix that confidence issue, it gives you the ability to finally play that level that you're capable of playing. And like I said, guys, that's my ultimate goal, and that's what I want to talk about today. So the first point I want to make about this is that how you approach the game is how you will play it. How you approach the game is how you will play it. So what I mean by that is that if you approach the game cautiously, if you approach the game saying, hey, I'm just trying to not mess up, not look bad, that's how you're going to play the game. You're not going to be able to play the game in the manner that you probably want to. You probably want to be a guy who can go out and score 20 points and, you know, hit a bunch of shots and do all this stuff. But if you approach the game cautiously, you're not going to be that player. Okay? And again, this is specifically for the players listening who have put the time in and actually are at that level of ability where, hey, you know what? I think I'm good enough where I probably could go and score 20 points in a game. I could probably score 15 points in a game, right? I could probably be one of the leading scorers of my team because I've put the time in, I put the work in, but I'm not seeing that, okay? You have to evaluate how you actually approach the game, right? Do you go in looking to not mess up? Do you go in looking to say, hey, oh, I can't miss any shots today, right? Or I'm only going to take the perfect shot, All right, I'm not going to shoot the ball until it's the perfect shot. Okay, the perfect opportunity. Okay, one of the biggest issues is that a lot of times players wait for a perfect shot. Okay, and again, this is speaking to guys who are good shooters, right? If you're a good shooter, this applies to you. Okay, if you're a good shooter and your coach lets you shoot the basketball, you can't be waiting for perfect shots. You just can't do it. Okay, when you have an open shot, when you have a shot that's available, right? Especially in the flow of an offense where maybe it's coming off of a driving kick, coming off of 2 or 3 passes, you have to be willing to take that shot and live with it, make or miss. Again, if you're able to hit that shot and you've proven that in practice or your coaches know that, then that's the shot you have to be able to take. You have to have the confidence to say, you know what, I'm going to take this shot. I might miss it, okay? I might miss that shot, but it's a good shot for me. So that's the difference between playing cautiously and playing confidently. The cautious player is waiting for those perfect opportunities, saying, okay, I'll shoot the ball when it's absolutely perfect. And what usually ends up happening is that they get to the end of the game and they only take in 2 shots because there are only 2 shots where, without a shadow of doubt, they had to shoot the basketball. That's typically what you see. Like with a player who approaches the game cautiously, they only take shots that they have to take, right? Or the majority of the time, the shots that they take are the shots that they have to take, where you're wide open and you can't pass the ball up, or else you're going to get pulled, right? That's the type of player who usually approaches the game cautiously. Is they're waiting to say, you know what, I have to shoot this basketball. Meanwhile, the player who approaches the game confidently is obviously going to take those shots they have to take, but they're also going to take some shots that they probably don't have to take, that, you know, that might be a little bit more contested, okay? And I'm not saying it to go and take contested shots. I'm saying that you don't have to wait for perfect shots. The confident player is not waiting around for a quote-unquote perfect shot because they just don't happen very often, right? Unless you're on a team that has 5 guys who are all great shooters and you can literally wait for a perfect shot every possession, most teams don't have that, okay? So if you're one of the better players, then you've got to go out, you have to approach the game with that level of confidence. So the thing is, when you're that cautious player, first of all, off the bat, you're going to have less chances because, like we said, you're typically going to wait for those perfect shots, which are just going to not happen very often, okay? Again, in most circumstances. But the other thing to consider is that even when you get those perfect opportunities, maybe not even shooting, maybe it's just the perfect opportunity to attack the basket, right? If you're playing cautiously, a lot of times you're going to, it's kind of a paradox, right? You would think, okay, I'm playing I'm playing safely, right? I'm playing really, really safe. Well, a lot of times, even when you take advantage of the opportunities, they're not going to work out for you because you're approaching it with the mindset of to not mess up. And when you're trying to go out and not do something, a lot of times that's what ends up happening, right? That's the paradox right there. You go out there trying to not mess up. A lot of times you end up actually messing up more than you would if you just went out and played, okay? And combine that with the fact that you're going to get less opportunities because you take less opportunities, you're less aggressive, and the results that you get are going to be a lot worse than you might think, okay? So that's the biggest thing to understand. If you play cautiously, you're actually hurting your chances of not messing up, okay? When you try and focus and go out there and try to say, hey, I'm not going to mess up today, a lot of times what happens is you mess up more. Meanwhile, the player who goes out and approaches the game confidently is first of all going to have more opportunities because they take more opportunities, okay? And so they might miss some more shots, but they take more shots. So it kind of balances itself out. But also, you're a lot of times going to capitalize more on those opportunities because you're approaching it aggressively, right? You're trying to go get something done. Your goal is to score or to make a play. Your goal is not to not mess up. Your goal is to go make something happen. And a lot of times, again, it's a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You go out trying to do something, that's usually what happens, okay? You go out trying to not mess up, well, all that your brain computes is trying and mess up, okay? And there's been studies that have been done on stuff like this. Specifically, I was reading one done by Utah. I think it was Utah State, or maybe it was done on the Utah State teams. But they basically did a study on a women's college volleyball team and a women's college soccer team, and they looked at the correlation between performance and confidence, and whether or not those two had an effect on each other. And they found that, I think we kind of all know this, but they did. Those things have a correlation, and as your performance increases, typically confidence goes up, and it's kind of like a cycle because as confidence goes up, performance continues to increase as well. Okay, so that's something to consider. Again, we want to get to the point where we are approaching the game confidently, right? We're going out there trying to make things happen. And when you go out there and you approach it confidently, ready to take advantage of the opportunities that you're given, a lot of times it's going to help you to make more of those, make the most of those opportunities. And that's ultimately what your goal should be. Okay. I think kind of relating to this, a big part of it is focusing, where is your focus when it comes to positive and negative? Okay. Because I think a lot of players who struggle with confidence have a very, very negative focus and a very, very negative approach. And this is, again, an area where, I've certainly struggled with before as a player. And it's a lot of times a what if situation. So what if I go in there and I turn the ball over, right? What if I go in there and I miss a shot? What if I go in there and I drive and someone strips the ball from me? Okay. A lot of times it's negative thoughts that are going through that player's mind. And again, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you're thinking negative thoughts, a lot of times the negative outcome is what you're going to get. So you have to you first of all identify those thoughts, and you have to replace them as well. Okay. The question is, how do you talk to yourself after you miss a shot, right? This is definitely an area that I still struggle with now, even when I'm playing now. Like, I'll miss a shot, and I have to try and catch myself, because a lot of times, for me, it's like my body language, right? Because when I shoot the basketball, I expect it to go in, right? And when it doesn't, how do you respond to it? For me, I definitely need to get better at this. Not hanging my head when I miss a shot, just continuing to play, because the next shot's going to come, okay? And it's something that I definitely get on my players about, because I see it with myself, and it's definitely a bad habit for sure, but it's something that you have to identify, and then you have to break that, okay? Because at the end of the day, you're going to miss shots. Miss shots happen, but it's how you respond to that, right? Great shooters have that next play mentality, okay? So, you make or miss, right? You make the shot, great. You miss a shot, great. You're on to the next play. You're going to play defense, because you're going to get another shot at some point, okay? And you got to be ready for that one. I forget. It might have been a DM that I got this week, or maybe it was last week, and I forget the exact context of the situation. But kind of my thought and my response was like, basically, this player was, it was probably a similar situation to this, where they were talking about, okay, I missed a shot and I was like upset. And the funny thing is, like, the comparison I like to make is that being upset about missing a shot that just happened 5 seconds ago, and being upset about missing a shot that you missed 4 years ago, it literally, you have the same amount of control over both of those, which is 0. So it's basically the same exact thing, right? You're upset with missing a shot that just happened. Well, there's nothing you can do about that except keep playing. And it's the same thing with the shot that you missed 4 years ago, right? There's nothing you can do about that shot. It's already happened, okay? And that's what great players, great shooters specifically, have embodied, right? Is that I'm on to that next shot, okay? I missed it, okay? On to the next one. And that's something that, especially as you're practicing, right? Even just in your workouts, getting shots up, when you start to feel yourself getting frustrated when you miss shots, like, what do you tell yourself? What goes through your mind? Are you thinking, man, I'm terrible, I can't make shots, oh man, I'm missing everything today? Or is your thought immediately like, listen, I'm gonna make the next one? Or, hey, I'm a great shooter, the next one's gonna go in? Like, what is your self-talk? Is it positive or negative? Because I think practice is really where that starts, okay? Where you can kind of coach yourself and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be positive. Every time I miss a shot, make or miss, it's a positive reaction from me. I'm not hanging my head. I'm not saying anything negative. I'm just going to keep on going, okay? That's something that I would encourage all of you guys to do, is when you catch yourself being negative at any point in a game, flip that script in your mind and say, hey, you know what? Positive talk, okay? Next one, I'm going to make the next play, right? I'm gonna get this one the next time. Next one's going in, okay? Those are the type of things that, again, separate those players who play cautiously and play confidently. The confident player is always positive with themselves. They always think that they're going to make the next play, that the next shot's going to go in. That's always their thought, okay? And that's what is the important piece with all of this when it comes to confidence. So the biggest question becomes, how do I gain confidence? Right? What are the steps to take to become that confident player? And I think there's a lot of ways to do it. Now, first of all, I think I'll preface this with the fact that you have to put the time in, okay? So, and I've said this a couple of times already, but if you aren't a good shooter, then no amount of, self-talk, whatever, is going to make you a good shooter, Okay. You've got to be able to shoot the basketball if you want to be confident in yourself as a shooter. What this is specifically talking about is that there are players who are good shooters who still aren't confident in themselves, who still miss a shot and they can't overcome that, right? They think, oh, I'm terrible today. I can't make shots today. Meanwhile, no one else in the gym thinks that. Their coaches are like, listen, I need you to shoot the next shot. Their teammates are like, okay, I need you to keep playing, right? But that player is so in their own head that they don't have that confidence to be able to bounce back from that. So I want to talk about that right here, okay? You know, the one thing, like the one line I want you guys to remember from this is that you gain confidence by seeing good things happen, not by avoiding bad things. You gain confidence by seeing good things happen, not by avoiding bad things. A lot of players take the opposite approach to this. Okay, they think that, hey, if I just never mess up, then I'll be confident. That is actually the opposite of that. You will gain confidence by seeing good things happen. So again, it becomes the approach. Are you focusing on the negative or are you focusing on the positive? Because if you're focusing on the positive, chances are you're going to be in a position to gain that confidence. And what do I mean by this exactly? What I mean is that having been previously successful is the best way to gain confidence. The best way to gain confidence is already having succeeded in a certain situation before. So as important as it is to train and work hard, as important as it is to think positively, all the stuff that we've talked about already, okay? When it comes to gaining confidence, have you been successful in that situation before is a question that you need to answer. And this is why you have to approach games aggressively. You have to approach looking to make something happen, because when you start to make a couple shots, right, you get a couple drives to the basket, you make a couple really nice passes, you make a couple great plays, that's where the confidence comes from. It comes from making things happen, okay? Because here's the thing. Throughout that situation, you're probably going to mess a couple things up. You might make 4 shots, but one of those, let's say you make 4 out of 5 shots, maybe your third shot was a miss, but you kept on going, okay? So you had that 4th shot, that 5th shot, boom. Now you're feeling very, very confident in yourself because, hey, I made 5 shots today, okay? You did miss one, but you made 5 shots today. And that's ultimately what the important part is, right? When it comes to being confident, is you have to see good things happen. And I'm sure you guys have felt this, right? I definitely feel this all the time, even if I'm just playing pickup or whatever. Like if I go down, I make 2 or 3 shots, it just changes the whole way that you play now, right? If you make your first couple shots in a game, you all of a sudden are like, oh yeah, like I'm ready to play. And I think for the majority of players, when they get out to a good start, usually those end up being their better games because now you're playing the game with confidence. You've hit a couple shots. You're feeling good. At that point, you're in the zone, right? And the zone is just, you're feeling good, right? You're just in the moment playing, okay? A lot of times when players are out there trying to not mess up, you can't get in the zone that way, okay? You're always going to be in your own head, overthinking things, making mistakes because you're not just in the moment playing. And this is probably a whole episode I'm going to have to do at some point. I've kind of done this before. I've kind of done an episode talking about this, but I'm going to have to probably go more in depth into talking about the zone specifically. But again, you get into the zone by being positive, right? By going out there and being aggressive. And when you hit those first couple shots, now you're just playing basketball. And then you're going to be in that peak performance, that zone state, and you're going to be at your best. So that's why I'm saying, guys, the best way to gain confidence is to go out and see good things happen, make good things happen, right? You're not going to do that by sitting around waiting for the perfect opportunity. Because when you miss a shot if you take 2 shots in a game, there's a good chance that you're going to miss both those shots, right? If you're a great 3-point shooter, you shoot 40%. So that's 2 out of 5, okay? So if you take 2 shots in a game, it's a very real possibility you miss both of those shots. And then how do you feel? At that point, you're just going to be absolutely crushed because you waited for those 2 perfect opportunities and you missed both of them. So now you're even less confident you were before because you tried to avoid making mistakes. Meanwhile, if you would have gone out and shot the ball 5 times, you probably would have made at least 1 or 2 of them if you're a good shooter, okay? And now all of a sudden, you've got a couple makes under your belt and you're feeling better. So you probably end up shooting the ball a little bit more. Now, maybe you get a couple drives. So now all of a sudden, you hit 2 more shots. You got to the free throw line. Now we're talking you scored 10 points that game. Okay. And it's just the difference between the approach. One player approaches it with that cautious, negative approach. Oh, I'm going to try not to mess up. And they never are able to get themselves going. The other player approaches it with that positive mindset of, hey, I'm gonna go, make a play. I'm gonna go try and be aggressive right here. If I have an open shot, I'm gonna take it. If I have an open drive, I'm gonna look to attack. And because of that, I got myself going, and I was able to get more opportunities. I was able to create for my teammates, all those things that are important. And it just changes depending on the approach that you take to do that. Okay. And again, I'm sure that you've probably felt this before. What I'm not saying, guys, is, again, I'm not saying to go out and do things you're not capable of doing. I'm not saying to go out and shoot threes if your coach can let you shoot threes, you're not good at them. That's not what I'm saying to do. I'm saying go do what you do well, okay, and stop trying to be perfect at it, because you're not going to be. You just got to go out and play and do your best and put yourself in the best position by approaching it with confidence and being positive, and ultimately let the chips fall where they may, okay? It all comes down to that mode that you put yourself in. Are you going to approach the game confidently, or are you going to approach the game cautiously? Because if you approach it cautiously, I promise you're going to keep yourself in a box. And you're not going to like the box that you're in. You're really not going to like it. When you approach it with that confidence, with that positive outlook, hey, I'm going to make the next shot. I'm going to look to be aggressive right here. I know I've put a lot of time in. I've made a lot of shots, so I know that the next shot's going to go in. The way that you play is going to be completely different, okay? That's why I was saying before, a lot of times, and this goes back to what I always say about the importance of playing, right? The importance of playing games, because in my workouts, we're going to do, like, I'm just strictly talking about my in-person training that I do, like, especially if I have groups of guys who are, like, have a decent baseline of skills, we're going to end up playing probably for 70% of the workout. Now, that doesn't mean we're just going to roll the ball and go one-on-one. It means we're going to be in different situations that we're going to play out of. So maybe we play out of a driving kick situation, okay, where you're working, okay, what do you do when you catch the ball on the wing after a driving kick? Like, when do you shoot it? When do you drive? Like, what do you do when you drive? Those are the situations we work on, because those are the ones that happen the most in games, okay? So it's just different stuff like that. But again, my goal is to build confidence in those situations. And now when you get into a game and you're in that same situation, you've been there before, and you've been in practice, right, quote unquote practice, or a workout where we simulate that, you've made shots there, right? You've attacked, you've scored, you've seen it work before, so you feel that innate confidence to do it, okay? Typically if you have a really good game, you're going to come out the next time pretty confident in yourself. And it's the same thing when that's how, when it's like that with your workouts too. So again, not everybody is able to do that workout wise. I understand that. So that's where playing comes into effect. So if all you do is train by yourself, again, training is important. That's not something that we skip over, right? Again, I preface this whole thing with, if you're not a good shooter, don't shoot the ball, right? Your coach is not going to want you to shoot the ball if you can't make shots. That's how it works, okay? What I'm saying is that, understanding that, the next step is, okay, how often am I playing, right? How often am I putting myself in a position where I have to be able to, read, react, make the right decision, and live with the results of me being confident, okay? How often do I get to experience having to tell myself, hey, you know what? Next shot, next play, we're going to get the next one, right? Am I able to recognize when I'm not being confident, when I'm playing, when I'm approaching things the wrong way? You get that through game experience. So as often as you guys can play, whether it's just 1-on-1, 2-on-2, or 5-on-5, whatever it may be, just the more opportunities you have to go against somebody, the better it's going to be for you, and the more confidence you're going to build up, okay? But again, I want to make sure that you guys understand the importance of kind of our 3 points here. So, number one, how you approach the game is how you play the game. So do you approach the game cautiously, trying to not mess up, trying to only take the perfect opportunities, or do you approach it confidently, right? Trying to go make a play, make something happen, do something good, and do you take the opportunities that you're given, okay? That's the biggest thing when it comes to who's successful and who's not, is really just the approach that you go into the game with. Number two, do you focus positively or negatively, okay? Or what is your reaction when you miss a shot? Okay, and again, listen, for me personally, 100% honest with you guys, this is an area where I'm not good at. I'm not good at my reaction after missed shots. And a lot of times and I see it again with players, like there can be different reasons for it. But for me, it's because, I go out and I am like, I expect to make every shot, which you should. But then it becomes, okay, you have to know that you're not going to you're not going to make every shot because even the best shooters in the world don't. Okay, so how do you handle it? That's something that I definitely have to catch myself and I constantly have to improve. Okay. And I'm sure for a lot of you guys, it's the same way as well. So where is your approach at? Okay. When you catch yourself, flustered after a miss, do you tell yourself, hey, I'm making the next one? Or, hey, you know what? I got to shoot the next shot. Hey, you know what? Next play. I'm going to go make a play right here. Okay. I'm going to go get a stop on defense. Right. That's the question right there. Okay. So your focus needs to be positive, not negative. And then the last one, you gain confidence by seeing good things happen, not by avoiding bad things. Very, very big key for you to understand right there. Go out and make something positive happen for yourself and watch the results that you get from your games completely change. So those are kind of the 3 points right there when it comes to confidence. And I hope that this helps you guys out. I know that this is something I've been thinking about a lot, and I know that there's definitely going to be some players that this for sure applies to. This is, I always talk about how when I started the podcast, or even when I started my YouTube channel in general, about, it's April, so this would have been almost 2 years ago, probably a little less than 2 years ago. And my goal was always like, hey, I just want to be able to put out stuff that I know would have helped me back when I was still playing, right? If I could have seen this when I was, in 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th grade, like this would have been awesome, right? And this is another thing right here that I think is something players need to be able to see. So again, hopefully that helped you guys out. Like I said before, if it did, go on Apple Podcasts, scroll down to the bottom of the page, leave a review. Let me know what you think. Let me know, even if it's just say, hey, coach, this episode was awesome. Like, I like this episode, or hey, this is a good point you made, or hey, this is a point that I also think that you should have made here. Whatever it might be, just go ahead and do that. Really do appreciate it. Again, I'll read that on the show. If you guys are on YouTube, drop a like, subscribe, drop a comment too. Let me know what you think. If you have any other questions, suggestions for me, and of course, follow me on Instagram at Vision Your Basketball. Posting on there pretty frequently on my story, pretty often too. Send me a message again if you have any questions as well. I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.